Well, I was checking my ACs here on my Grand Design Reflection 2022 341 RDS, and looks like the air wasn't cooling as much from what I've seen through the ducts on it. And I was curious if I had what everybody's been raving about in the internet on this kind of styrofoam kind of thing, or you can make it yourself to make it cooler in here or circulate the air a lot better. Well, to my surprise, I opened up the vent and wow, instead of me making a modification, I already have one. Well, that's a good thing from Grand Design that they did that on these new 2022s. I was wondering myself, I was like, that would be a shame if they wouldn't actually jump on something like this that they have access to. The only thing I did find out that this thing does need to be seated real good. If it doesn't, you are gonna find a leak. Well, right by the yellow decal that's right there, that wire that's to the going across there was actually in between the foam or air diverter between that and the unit itself, which there was a gap. So when I put it off, I can see that the assembly part of it, or I don't know if you want to call it assembly, but the diverter that they put in there, it looks like it wasn't seated properly, so it had a gap. So I can see why it was probably not being efficient. Well, I went ahead and closed it up. I still have an idea that I might close up the area there around it with some tape, just to keep the air more in there. But other than that, I think it should do what it needs to do. I mean, I have a very little slight gap there, and that's after reseating it. It's seated a lot bit better. But if you notice on that edge and that edge, it kind of doesn't sit quite right. So I mean, they attempted to do the design pretty well, but they didn't do it where it was a good solid fit. So there is some gaps that you'll need to kind of adjust to. I'm just gonna leave it like that for now, and actually just go with the fact of so no warranty issues or anything like that, and them dealing with it. I'm just gonna kind of adjust it where it sits just right. And I think that right there on the side there is some styrofoam pads, or it's like a, I guess, aluminized insulation or kind of padding that kind of goes along with the inlet that goes to that side, and there's one that goes out this side, then you got the one in the center. So it does the same thing like they created with that thing on the internet. So anyway, let's see what happens. I just want to inform everybody that the Reflection 341 RDS does come with those that new modification that everybody's raving about. So in case you're like, well, let me do it, well, you don't have to do it. It looks like, well, I still gotta check the bedroom AC and see how that is. It comes with two ACs. I mean, it does a great job once it gets going, but I did notice it was taking a little bit of time for it to cool down. Well, while I'm here, just a little walkthrough on some of the things of this RDS. I mean, I love it. I think it was well designed. I think they could have done a little bit better on using the screws that they use. I find a lot of screws that are already, if you look up here, that nice pretty screw there. Well, look what happened to this little screw, and it hasn't been since February, since I got this in 2022. So those kind of little things are just little things that they could have, you know, adjusted. Why are they rusting? You know what I mean? Let's use stainless screws, guys. It doesn't cost very much more, especially when you're paying a lot of money for these RVs. One of the things that I do have that I love the most is my Furon. I think it's a 13 cubic inch. It's pretty big. Right now I have it set up where so it can air out. She's real roomy. I mean, I love it. The thing that I love about this fridge is that 2 hours before I leave if I turn on that fridge with the on and off switch, which is another thing that you'll find interesting is you got to read your manual on this thing on how to function it, because if you don't, my first time out was a headache. I was first time to 12 volt refrigerators, and I had to learn. I tried to just jump the gun and say, how hard can it be? Well, I did find out. I ended up having to buy a cooler just to compensate for that 3 or 4 hours took me to figure out what was going on. The main thing, the power, what happened is my battery drained out, because at that time I had left it overnight to cool down before my trip. When I came back in, everything looks like it was working great, but when I got to my campsite, all of a sudden it just kind of like stopped cooling. So I guess I hadn't yet hooked it up, or I had just hooked it up and everything, so it looks like it started cooling again, but it just quite wasn't cooling. So what happened is I found out the refrigerator went into a defrost mode, which is another thing I read into about it. And that defrost mode, basically once it kicks in, you pretty much have to, from my troubleshooting, ended up finding out that I had to disconnect the refrigerator, power to the refrigerator completely, like all LEDs, everything off on the front of it to be turned off. And then I just waited about an hour, plugged everything back in, or connected the source to it back in per se, and it started working fine overnight. So it didn't take very long to get cool. Like I said, we were on shore power at that time, and I was surprised that even on shore power it still wasn't cooling like it was supposed to. But anyway, just wanted to give y'all an update on my 2022 341 RDS. I love it. I love control panel. One thing that I did notice on it, which is another thing I think that they could have done, was they could have at least done included an inverter. Surprisingly, they put 195 watts, I believe, was the solar they put on there, with a regular battery, which of course that's where they're not going to spend the money, and which I see why they don't put a lithium battery in it. I mean, they should have. When you're gonna put solar on it, let's go all the way right. I mean, you did jump on the thing of the AC, which is 100% importable when it comes out to going camping or either going out of town, and you're like expecting to have the luxury of more than being on your own home on wheels, that the AC works. And of course in the winter the heat, which is awesome so far. Earlier in the year in February we did have a little bit of a coolness. We tried it out, it worked out great. Anyway, other than that, more updates on the Reflection 341 RDS 2022 will come up as I go through some of these things on it. Just wanted to kind of throw that out there. That's surprising. I mean, it took me by surprise. Of course, things get done real quick. They don't get consideration that if it seats right or seal it in good. So that's kind of things that, I mean, I don't mind doing, but some people are not handy. It would help if Reflection would actually, or Grand Design would actually take the time to QA that installation process. All right, well, I'm out. And again, this is RVing with a twist. And if you like the video, click on the like button. And if you'd like to subscribe, it's up to you. I do appreciate you watching my videos, and I enjoy sharing things as I come across it. Well, just a little glimpse of my RV, and y'all have a great day. Till next time.